Hello again, friends. Welcome back to another video. I'm Shani. If you're new here, welcome. And to my regular watchers, I always appreciate you. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and come back for more recipes. On the menu today, I wanted to showcase some of my favorite Jamaican desserts or snacks. So I thought I would just take you along. So let's get into the video. So this is the main ingredient and the common denominator in all of the recipes, adding a few more ingredients. So starting with my coconut, I've already broke them in half and I'm just gonna go ahead and remove them from the husk. I've shown you this several times already. Just get your knife underneath the husk and just twist it, and there you have it. So I've taken them all out, and now I'm gonna go ahead and just give these a wash, and each recipe I'll show you the ingredients as I go along. And growing up in Jamaica, these snacks were something that we always like to have, and you don't get them as readily where I'm at right now. So here I have some sugar and some ginger and the coconut, and I also will need some water. So for this recipe, we're gonna be leaving the skin on the coconut there, that brown outer part, and then we're gonna just dice this up in small dice. These are called coconut drops. So I'm just gonna keep cutting these up until all they're done, and you can chip them even smaller if you want, but this small dice is usually traditionally how they are made. So here they are, and I've already gone ahead and peeled the skin off the ginger. So I'm gonna go ahead and just grate this up. I want the ginger to be almost as big as the diced coconut itself, and the more ginger is in this drops, the better it tastes. But go ahead and do it to your liking. So here in my Dutch pot here, and this pot is from Jamaica as well, it's made there, and I'm just adding in, have some water in here, and I'm adding in that grated ginger and the sugar, and I'm just giving this a toss, and then I'll just go ahead and place this on the stove. This will take about an hour or so depending on how hard your coconut is, and these are pretty dry, so I imagine it'll take me about that exact 1 hour. So I'll place this on the stove and I'll look at it in intervals. I'll just keep stirring as the time goes closer. So this has been on the stove for about 20 minutes already. So as you can see, a lot of the water has evaporated and it's thickening up. So I'll just keep stirring this for a bit longer, and there will be a time when I'll stay very close to this, but for the meantime I'll just be scraping down the pot as I go, and I'm watching the liquid as it evaporates. So I did add a little bit of salt in here, I didn't show you, and the salt is not going to make this salty, it just balances out the sweet, because as you can see this has a lot of sugar. So this is ready. I'm going to go ahead and drop this, and it's a very fine line between when you drop your drops and when you leave them before they get burned. So here they are a bit runny, and they did take a longer while to set up. So here now we're going to go ahead and make our grater cake, and for this one I'm going to go ahead and remove the outer skin. I also have some granulated sugar for this. I have a lemon juice. I'm going to be using the juice, is optional, and also again some salt. We're balancing out flavors here, and a red food coloring, which is typical for the color. So I've gone ahead and peeled off some of the skin already. So the easiest way to do this is with a vegetable peeler. I mean, obviously if you don't have one, you can use your knife, but it is not the easiest task. But you do need to have the skin removed for this recipe. So I'm just gonna get this last bit off, and I'll rinse these off again, and I'll get to grating. And for me, grating is one of my worst things, but there's just no escaping it in this sense. And I'm using that medium grate. The finer the grate, the better, but I think I could get away with this medium grate. So into a pot with a smidgen of water, about half a cup, I've added in the sugar, and I'm squeezing in that drop of lemon. You can also use lime and the salt, and I'm just stirring this up until the sugar dissolves. Then I'll go in here and add in the grated coconut, and this one versus the other one doesn't take long. About 20 minutes will get this sticky enough for you to set. So here the water has even started reducing quite a bit, and it's thickening up as you go, and I want to say 20 minutes, so I won't go too far from this, and this is good. So I'm going to go ahead and get this off the stove, and be careful here, you don't want this to turn color. And as I can see, the side of my pot there is starting to turn color because I just took my eyes off just to prepare the pot. So here we are. We're gonna go ahead and get this in. So here I have a little glass container, and I'm just putting this on the parchment, and I'm just gonna go ahead and spread this out, and I'm moving very, very fast because this sets up quickly. And I did get a little color from the pot there, but this is fine. So this is good. I'm going to press this in nicely. This is about a 4-inch tin, but you can also use an 8-inch tin so that they're not too thick. So for the next bit, I'm using the part that got dark. So I'm just adding in my red food coloring here. And like I said, traditionally it's red food coloring, but I've seen it gone with yellow and green. So I'll just go ahead and mix this up to get all that color incorporated nicely. We want a nice bright red, and these are called grater cakes. These, you usually don't make them at home, but I grew up seeing my grandmother make this. I always were beside her at the stove as she was making this. She probably made this, I don't know, twice a month or so, or whenever we felt like it or had a lot of coconut around. And it's the Caribbean, we always have a lot of coconut around. So spread that red mixture on top of the white mixture, and the white mixture has already started hardening up, and this hardens up really, really quickly, so I'm doing well to move fast. And I'm just pressing it down with another piece of parchment, and I'll leave this to set about an hour or so. So after the 1 hour, so here we are, this is set fully firm. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this up into squares. This will probably give me about 8 squares. So get in here with your knife. Remember that this is hardened up now, and just separate it nicely so as not to break it up. So go in here with a nice sharp knife, and then go ahead and split apart all of the sizes that you want. You can make them bigger than what I'm doing, and that'll be fine too. Alright, so I got 6 pieces here, and I'll knead these up later, take off the excess bottom and so the sides and so on. So there you have it, a beautiful grater cake. So on to our next one, and this is going to be my TOTOE. So here I've shredded some more coconut, but I've left the skin on that one, and I have some spices, ginger, baking powder, a little bit of salt, and some cinnamon and sugar, as well as a bit of water. And I also have a bit of salt as well, and my flour. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put everything into the bowl here, and then I'll just go ahead and mix this up. And I've made TOTOE on this channel already, but since it's in the coconut lineup and it's one of my favorites, I'll just go ahead and add it as well. So I'll just add a bit of vanilla to the water, and then I'll add this. And this is usually made on a Sunday when you have leftover coconut trash from squeezing out the coconut milk that you use for your rice and peas. So if you have the making your coconut milk from scratch and you have that excess chaff, you can use it to make this. There's nothing special about this, there's nothing fancy about it. It is usually a dense cake that you just use up the leftover of the coconut, and so it's coconut TOTOE, and almost everybody loves this. So you give this a stir to combine. This amount of liquid that I gave you is perfect. I'll leave everything in the description box for you below. Spray a baking pan with a little bit of non-stick spray or butter, and then preheat your oven to 325 degrees and get this in there. This will cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. Alright, so here we are out of the oven. This is firmed up nicely. So I'll just let this cool. After it's cooled, I'll go in here and cut it up into my desired sizes. Just some small squares. Like I said, this is usually a dense cake, so you want it to be in smaller pieces, or however you want. So I'll just cut these up in some cubes, even sizes, and I'll show you later. Alright, so here we are, and this is not dense by any means. It's soft and fluffy, perfect with a cup of tea for supper. So on to our next recipe. Okay, so this one is the Gazada. So into a bowl, I have some flour and I'm adding in a bit of salt. And then I'm just going to mix this around to get the salt incorporated. Then I'll go ahead and add in my cold butter. So I'm using 1 stick of cold butter here. I'm just going to go ahead and chop this up to get it into the bowl so it's easy for me to work with. You can also grate this in if you have one of those small hand graters. So here I'm just going to get in here with my hands and just rub the butter in with the flour to resemble small breadcrumbs. And then I'll add some ice cold water. I have some ice in here, and that's going to help to keep my butter cold so that it doesn't get warm underneath my fingers. So make sure not to drop any ice in the mixture. So just keep kneading until you form a dough, and as soon as you form a dough, just go ahead and stop kneading. Cover it up in a cling wrap like this and place it into the fridge while we make our filling. Alright, so for our other filling, I have some more grated coconut with the skin on. I've added in my sugar, I've added in my cinnamon, now my ginger, and I'm gonna go ahead and grate some nutmeg in here. And this Gizzarda is so tasty. I have to say that this is probably my favorite. So I'm just whisking this all together. You can use a fork. I don't know what I'm doing here. So we're gonna get this onto the stove. I have a tiny bit of water in here, and then I'm just gonna squeeze in a little bit of vanilla. You can add this in at the end even, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of ginger extract and a bit of salt. Though this ginger extract is optional, but I have it, so why not? So I'm just adding in the coconut mixture here, and what this is doing is just to dissolve the sugar. And so that's why you don't need a ton of water. You just need a little bit, and you're just gonna stir it until the sugar granules are dissolved. And that's because we're not gonna be cooking this for a very long time in the oven, so you don't want to bite into coconut granules. So I'll just let this go for about 2-3 minutes or so, and when this is done, I'll take it off and let it cool, and then we'll quickly work on the rest of our dough. So here we've taken our dough from the fridge, and now we're just gonna go ahead and quickly unwrap it. Then I'm gonna cut this in half and work with 1/2 at a time. And I'll go ahead and place the other half back into the fridge, especially if your home is warm. So sprinkle your work surface with tons of flour, well, a bit of flour on top of the pastry as well. And let's go ahead and roll this out nicely, not too thin, not too flat. About 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch flat. So just keep rolling until you've achieved your desired thickness. Alright, so here I'm just using about a 4-inch round, and this is just the cover from the flour container, but you can use anything that you have about 4 or 5 inches round. And I'm just gonna cut, I think I got 6 Gizzadas from this amount of pastry dough. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start showing you how to make the pastry. So you're gonna want to go ahead and roll this out just a little bit more than what you've cut out, just a little bit more room, because when you start to crimp the ends, you're gonna lose some surface. So you want to go ahead and take, what is that, your index finger and your thumb and your index finger from the other hand, and just use it to squeeze them in as you push your other index finger towards each other, almost like a kiss, if that's a way to give an example. And just keep turning until you form those little indentations there on the side. And that, do you see? And that's just giving you the little surface or the little pastry cup for your filling. So I'll just keep doing this until all of them are done. Alright, so there you have it. That's so cute. And here's another one. So now what we're going to do is get them onto our baking tray. We preheat our oven to 350, and we're going to prick them because this is like a puff pastry. If you don't prick them, they're going to swell up in the middle and you're not going to have any surface to work with. So after you've placed them into the oven for about 10 minutes, you want to remove them, and now we're going to add our cooled filling to this. So we'll just keep the oven temperature at the 350, and then after all of these shells are filled, we'll go ahead and place them back in there for another 10 minutes or so. These are not supposed to take on any much color at all. So just keep filling until all of your mixture is done. And so the mixture that I had was enough for this 8 gizadas. So into the oven. So after they've been into the oven for the extra 10 minutes, here they are. There's just a tiny bit of color, nothing to really worry about. These were absolutely perfect. So I hope that you will love these recipes and that you won't be intimidated, and you get a feel of Jamaica and you see why we love the Caribbean. So there's our drops. Those were cooled. Those literally took me like 6 hours to dry, to set. And then there's our TOTOE, and then there is our Grating Cake and our Gazada. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give me a thumbs up to show that you appreciated what I did, and let me know in the comment section if I did well. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.